Hey there everybody, welcome back to another week of art class with your teacher, Mr. Young. For today, we're going to discuss about colors and color theory. After that, we're going to learn about mandalas. Later on at the end of this video, I'm going to show you step by step how you can create your own mandala color wheel. Let's get started. Now, the first thing you might ask is, what are colors? Well, in art, color is one of the 7 elements of art. So it is one of the 7 elements that artists use to create their artworks. And so one of the other elements that we have already learned was line from our lesson last week. So our second element we will be learning for this year is color. And in order to see color, you have to have light. And when light shines on an object, some colors are bounced off from the object, while others are absorbed by it. Our eyes can only see the colors that are bounced off or reflected. For example, if you take a red apple, the color that we see, red, is the color that is reflected or bounced off, while the red apple absorbed all the other colors. So it absorbed violet, blue, green, yellow, and orange, but it did not absorb red. Instead, it reflected it, and that's why we see it as the color red. The color wheel was invented by Sir Isaac Newton, and here he is on the image on the right. And he did that when he bended a spectrum of colors, like this, into a shape of a circle to look more like this. Now, in the color wheel, there are 3 main parts to it. The first part are its primary colors, and the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. The next colors are when you mix the primary colors together to create your secondary colors. So we have our secondary colors, orange, violet, and green. After that are our tertiary colors, and that's our third part, and our tertiary colors are red, orange, red, violet, blue, green, and yellow, orange. And you create those by combining your primary and secondary colors together. So again, just to review, to create your secondary colors, you grab 2 different primary colors and add them together. So I have red, for example, mixed with blue, which will create our secondary color, violet. Now, to make your tertiary colors, you need to grab 1 primary and 1 secondary color to create your tertiary color. For example, we have yellow plus orange equals yellow-orange. And if you notice from the titles of each of the tertiary colors, you say the primary color first, and then you'll say the secondary color. So you'll say blue and then violet. In another example, we say red first and then you say violet. In our next part of our presentation, we're going to talk about a little bit of color theory. And so in our color wheel, there are cool colors, which are our purples, blues, and greens. And we have our warm colors on the other side of the wheel, which has our yellows, oranges, and reds. The next part I'm going to talk about are our shades, tones, and tints, and that's how you add black, gray, or white to a color. So, for instance, we grabbed here a blue-green color, and if you add increments of black to it, that's called shades or shading. And if you grab that same color, blue-green, and add gray tones to it, the more gray you add into it, the more gray it gets, and that's called your tones. Lastly, if you grab your blue-green and add white to it and it gets lighter and lighter, that's called your tints. Now we're going to talk about color schemes, and that's how you arrange colors together to create your designs. So the first color scheme that we need to know are monochromatic color schemes, and that's when you grab 1 color. For example, if you just grab yellow and you added tones, tints, or shades to it, but the main color you use is yellow, that's called monochromatic, where you use 1 color. The next color scheme are analogous, and that's when you grab colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So in this example, we have yellow, yellow-green, yellow, and yellow-orange. If you want to grab colors from the opposite side, you could also grab blue or blue-violet, violet, and red-violet, and that's another analogous color scheme. Or if you go over here, you could also grab blue, blue-green, and green, and that's another analogous color scheme. As long as they're right next to each other on the color wheel, that's your analogous colors. And lastly, the next color scheme we need to know today is complementary, and that's when you grab two different colors from opposite sides of the color wheel. They're also called contrasting colors or complementary colors, and here we have the example of yellow and violet are complementary. You could also grab orange over here and blue, which are complementary. And then if you grab blue or green and red, that's another complementary color scheme. Now let's overview what we just learned about color in this quick video.
The element of color. More than any other element, color can have an immediate and powerful impact on us. But color is also the most complex and challenging element to work with. So to make color easier to understand, the traditional red, yellow, blue, or RYB, color wheel provides the foundation for what is commonly called color theory. In RYB, red, yellow, and blue are considered primary colors because these three colors can be mixed to create all other colors, but cannot be mixed themselves. The secondary colors are orange, green, and purple. Secondary colors are made by mixing two neighboring primary colors. So, for example, blue and red make purple. Tertiary colors are the remaining colors in between primary and secondary colors. For example, this is blue-green. One way that colors are categorized is by way of their perceived temperature. Warm colors are the colors on the red-orange side of the color wheel. These colors are thought to be more aggressive, making warm colors often a great choice for signage and logos. Cool colors are on the blue side of the color wheel. These colors have a receding quality. To explain, because Earth's atmosphere is blue, as objects get farther away, they get increasingly tinted blue. Harmonies are color combinations that go well together. The big three are analogous colors, which are any three contiguous colors. Complementary colors, which are two colors that are opposite each other. And triadic colors, which are any three colors that are evenly split into thirds. Three common color modifications are tinting, which is adding white to a color, toning, which is adding gray to a color, and shading, which is adding black to a color. Lastly, the RYB color wheel, it is just the starting point for understanding the world of color. So be sure to check out part 2 of the element of color.
Alright, now that we learned a little bit more about color, let's move on to the next part of our lesson, which we will talk about mandalas. Mandala is a Sanskrit word for circle, and a mandala is a symbol of the universe in its ideal form, and its creation signifies the transformation of a universe of suffering into one of joy. It can also be used as an aid to meditation, helping the meditator to envision how to achieve the perfect self. So they were also produced by Buddhist monks and other people in Tibet, India, Nepal, China, Japan, Bhutan, and Indonesia, and they date back from the 4th century all the way to present day. Nowadays, they are created throughout the world by many people, not just Buddhist monks. Mandalas from around the world. So over here I found some examples from Tibet, India, Africa, Mexico, and France, where you can find these mandala designs where they're usually shaped in a circle or in a rounded shape, and most of the time people use intricate lines and designs and the use of a lot of different colors. They also usually have some sort of symmetry going around, so it's the same on this section as it is on this section, and so on, going all the way around the circle. And so here in the Tibetan example, this is all made from colored sand. In this Indian example, this is a print of a mandala design. And then we have two other print examples from Africa and Mexico, where they use a lot of the symbols and common designs you would find from their cultures. And lastly, the French mandala is what you would find in the Catholic cathedrals in France. Alright, now that we saw a variety of different mandalas that's been created from around the world, we're going to create our own mandala and use our knowledge of color theory to create our own mandala color wheel. So on the right is a little design that I created, and then I also like this example that I found online when I was searching up mandala color wheels. So we're going to create our own. Before we get started and I show you step by step, go ahead and grab these supplies. We need a piece of paper. I also used a pencil, some coloring materials, and a black marker or pen. And for your coloring materials, make sure you at least have your primary and secondary colors. It's okay if you don't have the tertiary colors, because you can always blend with your coloring materials. Or if you prefer a more simple color wheel design, you could only use primary and secondary colors. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Hey there everybody, I'm going to get started now showing you step by step how I created my color wheel mandala. So the first thing I grabbed was a piece of paper. I also have a pencil to sketch out my design with, and I grabbed a black Sharpie to do the outlines with. But if you don't have a black Sharpie, you could use a black marker or a black pen, anything that's darker that can go over the colors. After that, I did grab all of my crayons of the primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. If you don't have the tertiary colors, that's okay. As long as you have the primary and secondary colors, that's all you're going to need for a basic color wheel. Alright, and you'll see in the next part, the next thing I grabbed was something with a straight edge along it. So I have this envelope that was just lying around, or if you have a ruler, that works perfectly. Next, the last thing I grabbed was something circular. So I found this bowl that has a perfect circle around it, so I'll use that to then trace my circle for my color wheel. And I'm going to do that on the middle of my paper now. So whatever you have at home, if you have something as a circle shape, that can help you out drawing your circle. Or if you don't have it, that's fine. As long as you have a pencil, you can sketch out your circle as best you can. Now after I'm done with that, I'm going to put a dot in the middle of my circle. So I'm going to find the middle. I messed up here, and I'm going to put it over just a little bit. Once you have the middle dot of your circle, you're going to line up your straight edge along it and create a horizontal line going across your circle. Once I have that first line, I'm going to go ahead and turn my straight edge around to make diagonal line. And I'm lining it up against that middle dot again. That way all the lines connect at that point. And I'm making another line out the other direction. Again, going diagonally and touching that dot. So if you have this, you should have 6 parts, and you have the horizontal line and 2 diagonal lines, and that creates you 6 parts. So I'm just counting off, I have 6, and that would be enough if you only have those primary and secondary colors like red, yellow, blue, and orange, green, purple. Alright, now that I have that sketched out, I'm going to go a step further so I can add my tertiary colors. So I'm going to go in between each of those lines and add another line going in between. So about right there, and I'm lining up my edge against the dot again and putting a line going across. So just like that, and I'm going to go all the way around and do that same thing. After that, I should have 6 parts going around, so that way I have enough for my primary, secondary, and tertiary colors again. Next, I'm going to use my crayons to color in each of my sections a different color, and make sure when you're coloring it in that you go in the color order. So I'm starting with yellow, and then next I will have yellow, orange, and then orange, and then red, orange, and then red, and going all the way down. If you don't have crayons, you could use colored pencils, markers, even colored pens, anything that you have that you would have at least the primary and secondary colors for, you could use that. If you also have the tertiary colors, that's a little bonus, and that's what I'm doing here. Alright, and I'm going to just fast forward a little bit so you can see when it's all colored in. And now I'm complete coloring everything. So I'm going to go in next with this black Sharpie and outline my whole circle. If you need to use that circle bowl again, you could. I'm just trying the best I can drawing this out without the bowl. And I found it helpful by turning the page. It made my lines go a little bit easier going around in a circle. After that, I'm going to go along each of the lines on the inside and draw those out on top of the crayons with this black Sharpie. And I'm going to go all the way around again. I'm going to fast forward so you can see when I completed that. After that, I'm going to go into each section and add a little design in it, and make sure any design that you put in one section, you do the same around each of the other sections, so that way it's more symmetrical and creates that radial balance like we see mandalas have. So I started with this curved line going all the way around on each of the sections. And after that, I'm going to add some more designs. Maybe in between those 2 lines around the edge, I'll put a zigzag line going in each of the sections. And I'll just fast forward a little bit. After that, I went towards the middle and I added some more designs. So I added some dots. Again, whatever you do on one, make sure you do around on all the other sections. And now I'm adding some more curved lines over here. So when you complete going around, it kind of looks like a flower. I'm going to go along with that flower theme, and maybe along the edge here in between each of the sections, I'll add a little leaf shape going along that line on each edge, on each side. And later on, I added more flowers going on top or in between those leaves. And make sure you're doing the same thing all the way around, just like I'm doing here. And after that, I added some wavy lines. So this is just my example. If you don't want to do exactly what I did, I do encourage you to play around and do your own mandala design. This is just an example of how I created a mandala, and a color wheel. But again, you're gonna make it your own, and once you're done, if you want to sign your name at the bottom or label it in any way, or you can even add to the design on the outside of the circle, just make it your own, and by the end you'll have your finished work. And you can see here I just added some final details with some more dots. I hope you found this video helpful, and don't forget once you are done to turn it into me on my website.